It's good to see them on senior night. Does he like socks? I think he's really on.
Basketball.
Now that the board is, we just want to recognize that October is School Board Appreciation Month. And so from the administrative team, we represent the whole school. We wanted you to know how much we appreciate you, and that's sincere. So there are Candor cupcakes made locally right over at Rising, what is it? Rude Awakening, yeah. Rising, whatever it is. Sorry. So, but thank you, sure.
Thank you, guys.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank
Thank
you.
you.
Appreciate you.
Thank you all.
Cool. We will-
And I'm sorry, you just too late.
Oh,
It's coming your way now.
I'll share with you.
Yeah, I was gonna say, someone will give you a cupcake.
No.
It's good to see you. You truly.
We'll start the public portion with the pledge. We're all- Pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
basketball. Okay, so we're gonna go through the other things. We wait for him to do this.
Yeah, well, he's a little lower on the agenda.
Okay,
so-
yep, sometimes we
Yep,
bump
yeah,
to the front,
sometimes we
but
bump.
we will.
Thank you.
All right, so first up is acceptance of the CPSC and CSE reports that we reviewed in executive session. Is there a motion? Thank you, Hope. Thanks, Ray. All those in favor? Any opposed? Excellent. Minutes of our last regular meeting, 9:15. Anybody have any editorial or substantive changes? Is there a motion to approve those?
I'll make a motion.
Thanks, Josh. Is there a second?
Second.
Thanks, Kate. All those in favor? Jay?
I understand.
Moving right along, treasurer's reports and appropriation transfers. Who has that? So this is what we, from Chris.
I should give it to you last
Yes,
night.
okay, cool. Yes, no, true. Thanks, Nate. Is there a second?
Second.
Thanks, Hope. All those in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Do we need one for each of those, or can they be bundled?
One at a time.
On to warrants. First one is general fund 12. Page 8, what is MAG Special Services? Hmm?
Management advisory group.
Oh, okay, cool, that helps, yep.
On page 16, our payment to New Rouge Charter School, is that represents how many months? Because I, is
I think it's the.
it a quarterly? Because it says, there seems to be more than what we've sent them in the past. I remember it being around 6,000 plus or minus.
But I'm not even sure.
Just read through it.
I know of only one 504 student. I don't know about gen ed students.
So you think have 3 kids there?
3?
Is it 3?
I only know.
So I will look closer at that, but that's my assumption.
Okay, I'm just
Yeah,
curious
good question.
because the number bumped up from before.
Actually, I had a question on the one right above that. It might just be a funky classification. National School Farms is charged to oil, lube, and antifreeze. It might just be a funky.
I don't know how to answer that. I guess. Monday morning, I will check these with
And then federal funds 6, unless you have other questions on that. And then a short one for school lunch. 4. Is there a motion to approve all those? If we're still meeting with the
I'll move the
Thanks, Ray.
the treasurer's report, or the warrant fees.
Is there a second on the one?
I'll second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? On to more fun stuff. Recognition of visitors.
It's a,
I'm
yeah, Mike James.
Mike James from King Architects, the project manager for them and for you. And I'm going to start off by asking for a little assistance. I'm not familiar with the laptop,
From the
So- laptop, just how to get to my phone drive. I didn't want to keep ringing that bell. while-
So we'll take the pause to recognize our other visitor.
I got nothing.
But thanks for coming out.
I've always liked this bike.
Yeah.
So it's like you have to be a mite to come to,
Tonight's my
Tonight.
night.
But congratulations
Oh,
on being an excellent board and being recognized as a board. How come we never were when I was?
It's right there.
We're an association.
Put that together, darn.
I want to thank whoever did the t-shirts for keeping us small.
I want to recommend they change my size. You were very polite.
There are more, if
You're
anybody
like-
wants to change the size.
That's awesome.
What's it say on the front? Did you pick the size again? Mine says triple X.
No.
There was some talk about some shenanigans.
It was.
But I'm guessing.
I stayed out.
Yeah, did you, I'm gonna say, yeah, some of, I thought some people were getting extra smalls and.
Nobody's relatives.
No.
Need to, when you get an extra small for the workouts,
Extra.
Yeah. Child extra small.
super snug.
Extra slim fit.
Sorry about that. So, I was asked by Brent to visit this evening just to give you a quick update on the progress of our capital outlay project and the potential capital project that we might consider voting on in March. So, again, I'm Mike James. Carrie Tiroli, who's the partner in charge, isn't here this evening. I offered to come down. She is a Yankee fan, as are her three boys. I'm a Red Sox fan, so I'll still listen to it on the way home. I just have maybe 10 or 11 images. I have nothing to hand out to you. I just thought we'd talk casually about where things stand. And I guess my message for the board is we're making progress. And we'll quickly take a look at the outlay project. I'll give you a little update on where that stands. And then we'll jump into several slides for the larger capital project. And I can let you know where we are. So the outlay project, which Carrie and one of our consultants, Bernie Martin from Appel Osborne, had been working on prior to my involvement in Candor. That had been submitted to SED, and we waited several weeks for them to review it. That just was approved this past Monday. So, and they typically notify us of that. They didn't this time, but we were on their website and noticed that it was approved. So,
It came today, Mike.
it didn't come today. Okay. We just happen to be there soon. We are making a few subtle changes to the documents based on some comments from your building committee members, very good comments. Bernie's picking those up, and then we'll be ready to go out to bid. So we'll communicate with the administration about the timing of that, the opening, and then the eventual construction, which should probably be in the spring, of course, for concrete removal and replacement. But fortunately, we can have our contractor on board. We can have submittals completed. We can actually have things like railings and other things fabricated, just waiting for the work to begin. So I think that's good news. Let's see how this works.
How can I help? You want that?
The next page will be centered. If not, I can roll with it. There you go. Thank you, Ben.
Pay no attention to the name behind
I have several documents here that I'm not going to take you through in much detail, but I just wanted to share with you. This is a schedule that actually Carrie drafted early on from when we first met with the administrators, and we've been updating that ever since as things developed. And the two items that I wanted to share with you tonight regarding the schedule is that we're hoping to determine the entire scope of work by the end of November. And there are a number of things that have to take place for a project, including seeker actions and involving your attorney. But in order to meet, like I was saying, mid-March vote, we really would like to have the scope determined by the end of next month. And we're well into that now. King has been on site a number of times with some help from Jim Wintermute. He's very generous with his time for me and my consultants. I've been on the roofs, which you'll see here in a moment, and I've visited much of the scope that have been shared with us to date. Our consultants, IBC engineers, they're our mechanical, electrical, and plumbing engineer, will be here next week. Our site consultant has been here already to review the track and loading dock and sidewalks, a few other miscellaneous things. And I think even just today, one of our consultants who deals with asbestos or hazardous materials was on site to gain access into the crawl space to help the district determine how much of an issue we have in the crawl space. So I think that was
Those are good. That so Jim came up and reported to me right away. The consultant felt, although he hasn't tested everything, it's not as bad as we feared, and not really even as bad as our BOCES inspector would have indicated. So that was really good news, because if it had been worse, it would have the expense would have been great. He said it's better than what we feared. So
fantastic. And I've worked with this individual for probably 20 plus years. I have a lot of faith in his skill and knowledge, so that's fantastic.
Right. And this particular individual, the company has worked with other schools, so they already have a relationship with BOCES. and a track record of being able to share the report with BOCES and get the BOCES one either amended or adjusted for the following year. So it's more in line. So again, it's thank you for getting us the right consultant that's trusted in the region, and we'll get a better report. So again, I hope I'm not talking too soon because he took samples and hasn't tested them all. But his initial impression was it's not as bad as it could be. So
That's great, because it was really an unknown.
it was really an unknown course. Yeah, we just had the BOCES report that said seal it up, don't go down there, or get ready to spend a lot of money. And that's what has been happening for a few years. No one went down there. His report was he doesn't think it's that bad. There's probably some work to do, but it's not going to be astronomical in cost or scope. It's something we'll be able to do and still access those pipes. That was the fear if something breaks down there and we can't get there. Anyway, I'm sorry.
No,
I'm
that's
talking
great
too
news.
much.
It's the first time hearing that.
I heard it today and I'm excited about it myself.
And at the heart of that discussion is really, what are the district's priorities moving forward? If we have a lot of asbestos to address, that will take scope away from other of your high priorities. So, I see Mike back there.
I will do my best.
Mike's on the payroll.
That's the little bar.
Can you spin a computer? He's got his left. Okay. I think.
What's that?
That's a
Wow.
perfect.
You're allowed Peter currently, should you go?
Oh, he's
What I have on the screen here, there are 3 pages of it. And this is perfect, because we're not going to read this either.
I was gonna ask if you wanted to expand.
No, it's perfect.
It's just the idea. It's the idea.
we get to just.
Right from the beginning, we started working on a scoping document. And that when we first came into the district, we took your building condition survey, which you completed maybe in the last couple of years. And looked, Carrie took all of your highest priorities and moved into this document. And some of the numbers were a little suspect, and I think it was a good decision on the district's part to say, let the team go in and look for themselves at our highest priorities, reassess the values, especially given the market conditions that we're dealing with right now. So that's what we're doing, and that's why the other engineers are coming down to look at ventilators and the crawl space and the site. So this document, which you'll see in the future, is broken up into the elementary school, the high school, and the bus garage, with a total at the very bottom. I'll just let's see that. And it is absolutely in flux. It's one of the reasons why I did hand out a copy. There are some zeros in there, and the number will change as we find out more. The district will want to add things to the list or pull things from the list. So, and we will help that to happen over the next 3 or 4 weeks. Yep, very good.
Is it regular or is it?
Yeah,
not-
ideally, I would zoom out from this, but I just wanted to give you an example of some of the work that we're doing.
I didn't do
It's okay.
it. Okay.
There you go. I might have done that, Mike. This is an example of some of the work we've been doing over the last month or 6 weeks. As I mentioned, I had been down and gotten up on the roofs. We created these roof plans from scratch. This is the majority of your junior, senior high school roof. So we created the plan and actually photographed the entire building and then started inputting the mechanical equipment. So we knew what we were up against in terms of roof replacement, which right from the beginning was one of the district's highest priorities. You know you're dealing with a lot of leaks, ceiling time, staining, those kind of things. And though you can't see it all, you can see most of it. Having been on the roof with Jim, the areas in blue are considered your highest priorities. So we've calculated those areas. We know how many penetrations and roof drains there are. We've adjusted our budget costs based on recent bidding. These roofing numbers have changed significantly in the last couple of years. So we have roof plans. Wait, I'm gonna get trouble for this. This is actually your overall high school plan. And I don't see how we can zoom in and out here.
It's up at this point.
We can.
Can I do that with a touch screen?
I don't know.
You want to zoom in or?
Out.
The other way.
Here you go.
So get more in.
That doesn't-
You got it.
Never.
More.
that doesn't make any sense.
That's-
Yeah, we can see.
So this is the floor plan of the junior senior high school. And again, I've tried to represent some of the scope in the plan. It's not everything. Our consultants will be adding to this, but it's really also a record-keeping tool for King and King. And just quickly, we know that there's some exterior doors that the district would like to replace. There's the junior high one?
Yeah, this is.
Yeah.
Yes, with some very old UVs, antique unit ventilators, I should say, and finishes in the space that were a priority. There's a potential to repaint the gym, walls and ceilings. The loading dock has some condition issues. And then one of the items that was on your BCS list was addressing the auditorium entrance finishes in the corridor immediately next to that. And the locker room just off of the gym area that has some damaged gypsum ceilings, again from roof leaks. So that's the kind of thing, once we address the roof, we'd want to take care of that locker room as well. Slide down a little bit, Mike.
Yeah.
I'm glad Carrie did not come to see this.
It'd be easier if I had a mouse.
Yeah. And I can just speak for it.
There, look,
There we go.
she has everything.
This is the second floor of the high school, and though I don't have any scope shown here right now, I believe the same area, the same vintage of this wing would need to be addressed for univentilators and finishes.
It's like bio and physics, right? Is that right? That's like
I'm
bio,
sorry, I
bio
was
and
watching
physics.
the mouse.
Yeah. It's mesmerizing. That's bio and physics. Where?
I'm not sure where we are right now. Is that where, when, can you help us?
Yeah, biology, pardon me.
Yeah.
Biology.
Yep.
Yeah,
That's
it's
the second floor science wing, yep.
And then we also have crawl space in your basement level. It's okay.
Move it up
He
a bit.
just figured out how to use the mouse pad, so.
Oh, got it.
This is your crawl space. And we have a little bit of scope in here. It's okay. We know that you have the asbestos concern in the crawl space, and that also you have a boiler room drain that is not working. You have repeated flooding in your boiler room, which we're helping Jim address. And we might be a simple answer there. It might not have to be a large capital project item, but we'll investigate. This is, again, the elementary roof plan. And we've been on that building as well. And there are 3 areas in total. There is a wing, one of the worst leaks are up top. That's all blue as well. And so the numbers in the scope document that I shared with you earlier have been adjusted for these areas. So we're making headway, as I mentioned. And after the consultant's visit, we'll be able to incorporate all of their numbers. And then later in the month, we'll come down and have a hard conversation about what goes on the list and what comes off the list. And then lastly, we have a floor plan of the elementary school where locker replacement was a high priority. And again, there are a few exterior doors that were on the list and possibly some carpeting. Now, having toured the spaces with Jim, the carpeting might even come off the list because he felt like that had been done recently. So those are the kind of things that we'll have to have conversations with our staff and admin and Jim to make sure that we're refining the scope and getting the best bang for the buck. So that was my last slide. Thank you, Mike, so much I apologize for that.
I finally figured it out. You want to do it again?
I don't think anybody wants to do it again. So I went through that quickly. Were there any questions?
So the only thing we didn't talk about is the track. And so the big question there, we obviously, we can't use the track the way it is. It's not safe, it's sunk, and it's the creek's fault, and okay, so we'll repair it. Why we're doing it, the question that I'll go back to the committee with and the board with, do we want to try to go to an 8-lane track? The village has said, if we have to encroach, they'll sell us for $1 what we need. We may not have to do that. I'm afraid it will be cost prohibitive and just to add lanes, but I don't know. But I asked them to look at that because if we're ever going to do it, now would be the time. We'd have to have 8 lanes to host bigger events. And again, so how important is that? Well, I'll need to hear from the board and the facilities committee to make that decision. And we'll also have to know what the cost differential is. If they're ripping it all up and replacing the whole thing anyway, add 2 lanes is, if it turns out not that expensive, great. It could be way too much. The other piece we have to be aware of, we might be able to do it without encroaching on the village park, which would be great, because if we do that, even though the mayor's been wonderfully cooperative and assured us whatever we need, it's going to slow down the whole process, which I don't want to do because we're leaking roofs. So I think I explained that.
That's perfect. And our consultant, Pell Osborne, has done tracks in fields throughout the state. And he thinks there might be a chance we could squeeze that extra couple lanes in on your existing property. And it was actually Carrie's concern that if we get into purchasing land, it could affect that March date. So we'll know more as he kind of works through his land. We don't have a survey, so he's working from aerial photos, but he has been on site. So fingers crossed for that.
Yeah.
Will there be another facilities meeting before that?
Yeah.
Okay.
So absolutely. So once we have some harder numbers and we know what we're talking about, there'll be a facilities committee meeting, and then after I talk with the whole facilities committee meeting and the expertise we have there, then I'll come to the board and say, okay, here's what we're recommending as a committee. Again, what has to happen, what that's going to cost, and then what goes on and what comes off.
And you've already started talking to your fiscal advisors about what's coming off of debt and what you can afford to do
So we'll know.
without impacting taxes. So we'll know pretty much what that number will be and we'll try to work toward it. And really that's a district decision, but all the parties that need to be involved are already involved.
I know some people who have cupcakes that they could sell to help out.
I've been known to pay a lot. And even though you only saw portions of the slide, I can leave the thumb drive if you'd like, Brent, and all the documents around there.
Thank you. Yeah, that'd be good.
Anything
So
else?
I know the lead times are insane. Is this gonna, if we get it approved, I mean, a lot of things have to happen before that, including a public vote. Are we gonna be able to really get at it this summer, like material wise?
No. As a
Okay.
matter of fact, if I went back to the schedule, you could see we're taking those SED review times and the long leads on some equipment into consideration. So, and we can go over that in more detail in the future, but there are other ways we can help ourselves. A lot of districts are using cooperative purchasing now, which is a process where you can, you don't go out to bid conventionally. You can bid through an agent or an agency that can do roofing or mechanical equipment. And there may be ways for us to shrink some portions of the schedule and have materials on site when they're needed. It's a challenge throughout the state right now. And I can tell you that there's pieces of equipment that are year-round. So, but we have a solid team. They do a lot of K-12 experience jobs, and we can help guide you through that.
Thanks for making the trip down.
Sure, I went longer than I expected to, I hope. It's not too long. Okay, he's right on, he's got my.
Oh, there.
Must be a past board member.
Yeah.
I'm all set.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you all.
Thank you.
All right. Page 2. We are on to the consent agenda, including additions tonight. Were there any items that merit being pulled out for separate discussion?
I'm just curious about who the CPSC, CSC 5044 chairman is. Was she a former special ed teacher or is she certified administrator? Or?
So for Sarah or for Lisa?
Oh, I was looking at Lisa.
So Lisa is our newly appointed school psychologist. So we've added her in. Allie, right, our former school psychologist, had been kind of the backup chairperson in case me, Angie, Holly, whoever. So yeah, we realized Sarah Loomis had only been appointed as CPSC chairperson. And that's when it occurred to me probably a week and a half ago when I thought I had a scratchy throat and thought, oh, I don't know that I have anybody who could stand in for CSC or 504. So we just figured we have a backup plan. Plan B, plan C.
Okay.
And I had hesitated. I think I didn't, not knowing Lisa, she's new to us. She has been a very valuable addition to the staff. And she is, and Pete, I know she's worked in your building probably more, but she's been over here. The teacher's been very receptive. She's been very supportive, helpful in classrooms. So she hit the ground running a little quicker than I thought she was going to. So
Are we still going to need subcontract psychologist help as well?
we do have Dr. Morag still on 3
Okay,
days
so
a week.
she's,
And she's been very gracious. If there is no testing to be done, she does not come in the 3 days. She literally comes in for the amount of time she's needed, and that's it. So it's not like we're just paying 3 days a week if we don't need it. We'll be using her in a few months. But yes, so we have Lisa, who's really like 0.9, Dr. Morag 3 days a week if we need her at this point. And right now we're okay, but we're not in the season yet.
The Amy Snell resignation, did the club dissolve? Are we continuing that from the Girls Who Code? Did they not have enrollment? Or is it?
She's pretty busy right now, so she just decided, and there was no one else that was interested in picking it up at this time. Okay. So we'll see in the future if there's someone who's interested in that. We will continue it. Yeah, it's unfortunate. We just put it out there and asked the faculty if anyone would be interested in picking it up, and no one was at that time. So.
How many students were participating in that ish?
The last time we offered it, I think she had up around 10 or 12. So I think there's interest. Just having someone who can.
Not the same animal and not as close to home, but the Tompkins County Public Library has a ton of sort of evening and weekend events for girls who do robotics. There was like a girls robot battle last week. We didn't end up going to it, but they did, and then there's a lot up there. So it's a drive, but
so essentially
that
that club is on hiatus until.
Yeah, I mean it's still out there. So if we have a faculty member who would like to pick it up, certainly could.
Any other questions or entertain a motion to approve the consent agenda?
So moved.
Thanks, Hope. Is there a second?
Second.
Thanks, Brent. All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Not a fun part. Mr. Raymond, you're up first.
Okay, well, just try to do some quick math in my head, which is always hard for me, but, I think we're in our 7th year of the early college program, and that's, for our seniors who take a full college courseload of 12 credits or more. I believe this year we have 7 students that are participating in it, and what's impressive in that is we have 5 of them that are on track to get their associate's degree prior to graduation, so that's pretty impressive. So I'm just glad we continue to offer that. TC3 is a great partner, and Brent really, I think, kind of takes the lead in working with the kids to get those associate's degrees. So it's nice to have our number up to set up to 5. That's going to be pretty impressive. We've never had that many graduate with their associate's degree before. And the early career program, we started that a year after the early college program. That's off to a little slower start this year, just because Mark Burrell's our work-based liaison, and he's on paternity. So I've kind of filled in for the kids that wanted to get going. I've got them going, and we've got the paperwork filled out. But when he gets back, we can talk to some kids who might be interested in going out and finding a placement, working with them in that. And the Tioga County Workforce Development's been working with us as well, working with all the county schools, and we're trying to get something going there as well. They're going to help us find some placements in the county.
So this is job placement for students
Out in the community, yeah, and in the school, in the school as well.
based on who becomes eligible for that?
Students that have enough credits and want to go out in their senior year, if they want to. And we've had a few juniors as well, particularly kids who might want to be teachers or interested in being teachers' aides. We've had them go over and help at the elementary school, but it's typically for the seniors, where they go out and get a job and they can earn high school credits through their work placement. So, it's been a few years since we've had any meaningful data to glean, supplementing or supporting instruction with, but we were able to offer proficiency in Regents exams last year. So we were able to sit down with the teachers who had these, in my building, 7 and 8 ELA and math proficiencies, and as well as the Regents teachers. I have a couple more meetings to do, but I think so far it's been pretty valuable. We've actually had to go back. Kim was kind enough to get the data for me and give me a template to use for the data dialogue protocols. So that was nice to use that. All the teachers I talked to said, very valuable. And I tell them, don't get too overwhelmed with it. If we can come out with 2 or 3 really good things that we identify as areas for improvement and growth for the students, that'll be really, really valuable to have. So, like I say, I think we're about 80% of the way through those meetings with the teachers. So that should be good. And lastly, the AAP, the Academic Accountability Plan that I think I shared this before, for the athletes, is no longer just for athletes, it's for all students, much to a lot of students' dismay. But you know what? I do think it is making a difference. And also, what I didn't put in here, and I need to really work on kind of meshing the two together, is the academic intervention program or plan that we have in place as well, because that's the multi-tier systems of support where we have the tiered students. A lot of kids, they're actually 2 separate items, but I really should mesh them together because I think it's kind of confusing for students and teachers as well. But at the end of the day, our expectations are much higher for our students, and they're going to be accountable. And I already have students that, with their tier 2, now I'm getting away from AAP, I'm going to the multi-tiered systems support. But if they're tier 2, they're not allowed to leave their learning labs to go to other places. Well, some are like, wait, I want to go. Well, you got to get your dirty. You work on that class first, and in 2 weeks, if you're doing better, you can go back. So it's made a difference already. I had some kids walk in my office and say, hey, I'm passing that class now. All right, well, in 2 weeks we'll talk about it. So hopefully they'll realize, all right, I got to stay on top of this stuff. I can't just make it up and go back to where I want to go in 2 days. I've got to take care of business, keep on top of my work. So that'll be valuable. In the tier 3, Mark Burrell, again, he comes back next week, so he can start working on those tier 3 interventions with the students that need it. So really hoping to get this plan really up and running here in the next week or so. And also for the AAP, I've communicated with, I don't know, you guys probably got the school messenger I sent out regarding it. I've talked to all the students about it. I've had it in the newsletter. I mean, it's been communicated, so I hope no one will be surprised when they're told that they can't go to a sporting event as a spectator.
Is that the main pain point?
The pain point?
Is that the main pain point? They want to go to the football game and
Yeah,
they get,
yeah, they're not gonna, yeah, or
Or whatever.
school dances,
Okay.
the musical, those are all some things that we would say, you gotta earn that, just like our athletes have to earn that to go to, and participate with their team. It seems reasonable and fair.
yeah,
So,
yeah. No, the participating in the musical. I didn't realize it was sporting events as a spectator
as
too.
a spectator, that's
pretty
why the non-athletes, it's
Yeah.
gonna affect them as well.
And how are the learning labs going? I mean,
We've had some meetings with teachers and it's not too bad. I think I walk by the cafeteria and kids seem engaged, which is good to see.
awesome.
It's all there's a little grumbling that goes with it, and we've had a few issues where kids didn't want to get up, didn't want to give off their phones, or like I say, these kids that were frustrated that wow, we can't go to Lindrich's and work on what I really want. Well, you can once you get this grade up. So it's just one of those things that they're going to have to learn that you have to earn those privileges.
How did you explain this to the kids? Do you have it as part of the General Assembly at the beginning of the year?
I walked into every learning lab
Okay.
at the beginning of the year, first day, and told them exactly what the expectation was. So they knew it. I don't think they realized how much it stayed when the time came.
You were serious about that?
No, you're going to do that, really? So, but it'll be fine. They're doing fine. Kids aren't really giving us a hard time. I think they come in and try to, let's make a deal for a little bit. And say, really, I had to try. So, I think I will say this, and this is what made me happiest. I had a meeting with a group of teachers. These are department chairs, and they said, this is long overdue. And I was like, all right, cool. They said, this is long overdue. You really should have been doing this for a while. So, it's good.
Fantastic. Mr. Ahart?
Thank you. So the first piece there is about our implementation of Spanish. This is a very foundational piece of Spanish. It doesn't go too in depth. And I appreciate Tracy Brady coming over to the sixth grade. She approached our sixth grade team about it to see if it was an opportunity. And we took advantage of it. And as I mentioned there, the focus really is on the speaking and the listening portion to set that foundation for the middle school, high school Spanish. There's no grades that are going to be associated with this Spanish class. It doesn't take away from the ELA class, the ELA block or math block. They do a study hall. Sixth grade has a study hall that they will be doing it twice a month with. So it doesn't take away from any instructional time. And I think it's a really good opportunity for our kids to be exposed to a foreign language that they don't have experience in. So I appreciate Wayne being flexible. Tracy's great. Tracy's schedule as well. I did note a little historical data from last year for the iReady and then this year's most current iReady data. It's on par to what I expected. A caveat to this is Sarah Loomis is taking a look at what impact summer school student participation had on the iReady results. So we had gotten a report today from Cindy Rick and our iReady reps of students and their historical data. We're going to compare that to the students who attended summer school, and we'll take a look at what impact summer school had on the learning progress of the students during the diagnostic. So that'll be another piece that we're going to dig a little bit deeper in, but we haven't looked at that yet. So we just got those today. Another piece of this is in mid-November, we have a plan to meet together in, we're calling it mid-diagnostic meetings, where we take a look at all the students in our intervention groups, tier 1, 2, and 3. We're going to reevaluate those groups based on current assessments the students are doing, based on this iReady data. And if we need to change around the tier 1, 2, and 3 groups, we'll do that. at these meetings. And that'll come in November before Thanksgiving break.
Now, these test pieces, students don't exempt out of those, right? Okay.
Nope.
Looks like
Yeah.
summer's rough.
What's that?
Looks like summer's rough. You get your advance, fall off.
Exactly. If you
Well, so they're also testing them on what they should know at the end of third grade in the fall, at the beginning of third grade, right? And so it's
that summer lull.
Scores are scaled over that curriculum.
Yeah. Yeah, it is. It'll be like the beginning of the year assessment. So it's not necessarily the end
the
of the
full
year.
curriculum.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's not like beginning to fall or beginning to end are not the same grading
Test.
rubrics.
Yeah.
They're the same test, but they're where they scale them relative to grade level isn't equal.
You said it much better than I
What's the
did. Thank you.
There's some questions on there that the teachers
Don't worry
haven't
about
gotten.
it.
Exactly, that's
That's basically, and it's the same thing we found with the state test. We did the state test data, the same thing as Wayne did in the elementary school on Monday. And we were looking through the release tests and teachers said, well, I could barely get to that topic. I could barely cover that throughout the year. I only spent 2 or 3 days on that. So I'll report more on that meeting in November. But yeah, there's some questions on the test that the students haven't covered yet.
That makes me feel better.
You did get state test data though from last year?
Correct.
Good.
That's what we're
Yeah,
evaluating.
the year prior, you guys didn't get it, right? Good.
They sent us something, but it was 2020 that there's absolutely nothing. But we had that little bit from 21 and 21 and then 22.
The students took the test, but I didn't think the data ever came. At least as a parent, I know I didn't see it.
Right. They didn't do that, but we were able to pull the trend reports for 3 years. So we did a 20, 21, 22, 20's missing. And then we also did 17, 18, 19, just to give the teachers, when they met with them, that 5-year, well, 6-year, but 5-year look because of that missing piece.
And to your comment, Nate, Wayne and I are going to send last year's state test results home to the parents because we had each individual students sent to us by the state. We'll send those out in the next couple of weeks.
So these results are for grades 1 through 6?
K through 6. K through 6.
K through 6,
Yep.
okay. So in the fall, I might expect the numbers to be a little less showing needs improvements for a while until the kids start coming in. Because every fall you've dropped off your 6th grade, which is now over here, and you've moved the kindergarten in. So
Yeah. It's a typical trend to see fall significantly lower than the.
yeah, and that's my point. So
And in the fall, they're being tested on all of the grade material.
yeah.
So
are
they don't
about
have,
to do.
Yeah.
yes. So then you should see those numbers improve
Yeah.
by spring.
Yeah, I think as time goes on, we should start to see more improvement, even at the beginning of the year, as the kids are better prepared by. Your letter on the back,
So yeah, I'll get to that. You want me to talk about that?
well, your math bothers me.
We'll talk about that when I get to that, and then we can talk about your question. So the attendance letter, so the philosophy behind the nudge, Kim brought back, I don't know if it was from a conference or not, but Kim brought back the idea of what the nudge letters are, the intent of the nudge letters. And, I tend to be a little bit aggressive on the attendance piece because we have, we're a month into school and we have kids missing a significant amount. I take into account whether they had COVID, whether they have excused absences or not. And that just explains a little bit about the nudge theory. So Ray, what was your question, math?
Yeah, 8 days is 36% of the academic school year.
Yeah, of the current academic school year is what I meant to say. So I should have added that in because I think it was 21.
Of this academic school year.
Yeah.
That makes sense. So how many weeks of school have you had?
Right, when I wrote this letter, it was 21 or 22 days of school.
Yeah.
Okay, so
So
that
it made
makes
sense with that
sense.
math, yeah.
And to miss 8 days out of 21.
That's a lot.
So this may or may not have been an actual letter I sent out.
Okay.
It's really unfortunate.
It is, and I know it's a bit, it sounds a bit aggressive, but it's really an opportunity for parents to work with us. I will say, since I've sent these letters, I sent 4 of them out. I checked with the teachers, the 4 students have not been absent since October 11th.
That's good.
They went out October, when did they go out?
October 11th.
Okay, so I don't.
You wanted to make sure you didn't get one.
Yeah.
We instruct our own house.
So that's like, I took in consideration of kids' sickness,
Okay.
because I knew, and Jackie knows when kids are out.
Okay,
So we have those conversations with each other, and for kids that don't have those.
and are they making sure that those kids that are absent, that they're sending, like I requested that work came home with a sibling so that, my dad could stay on top of stuff.
Mhm.
Is that's usually what you do, or
Yeah, if
only
you're
if they
gonna be,
request it,
yeah, if you're gonna be out longer than 2 or 3 days,
they send it home?
but if that's not happening, we can have a conversation about that.
So these are unexcused absences? That's even
In the high
worse.
school, we send a letter out for all absences. Then we have a cover sheet for the ones that were out medical, saying, per our high school code of conduct, we have to send out a letter saying the amount of how many days your child's missed. And ours is pretty, it says your child's been in attendance 60% of the time. The normal student's 95, so it is a little, they're missing a lot of time. But then if they're out for a medical reason that we know, we do from there. We understand the extenuating circumstances. This is a letter that we have to send out. We understand your circumstances, and we're here to assist you in any way possible. Please contact us. Something along those lines.
Does the nurse still call
We have a calls that go out every day, and our
anybody's
school
absence?
tool sends it up. They send it, and then it's a robocall.
I always,
Yeah.
shut
But
it.
it's not a
Shake the
robocall.
phone.
If someone's missing a number of days, then they're gonna get a personal call. If this starts to become something that's excessive. So in our attendance, people are really good at making those, staying on top of that.
At the elementary, it's a little different because parents always tell us, hey, he's gonna be out, she's gonna be out 2 days or more. The high school, you can't always count on that, so. Yeah, it looks a little bit different in both buildings.
Thanks, Pete.
And then we do have a couple of field trips scheduled for November. I'll report on in November, but we'll get back to field trips, author visits, individuals coming into the building. So we'll get back to normal.
So I know Holly, we have the report.
And I just want to share
Yeah,
a real
go
quick comment. So all the administrators want to be here. We end up with conflicts like last month and this month. There's a sporting event that the athletic director really should be at, and she has been coming to me and saying, okay, what's the priority? I'd love to be at the board meeting, but I really should be here. And we always want to, not that you're not very important people, but the students are more important. And then I think last week there were 2 sporting events. Wayne took one, Holly took another. So things like that are going to happen. And that's what I'm recommending. I just wanted the board to know that Holly's not just ditching it. So,
I've seen Holly away games, home games,
Yeah.
all games. It's incredible, actually.
yeah, she's doing
That's cool.
So thank you.
I have a question about the bus routes. Are we, like more in elementary school, are we experiencing difficult bus routes with behavior and over?
So great question. I'm happy to answer
I mean,
that.
because
for
55 kids on a bus with no aid, seems insane and unfair to a driver.
Yeah.
Is that?
It's a fair enough statement.
Yeah.
I'm going to say it's not outside of what districts do, but it's new to Camden. Is it being done just as a, cost cutting? No, we don't have the drivers. So your second question was, were the behaviors now getting much rougher? No, we have cameras on all of our buses. Now, there were some instances, and we do have some aides. What they've been doing is rotating the aides, and the aides are there not just to point out to a child when they're being bad, but to teach all of the children what the expected behavior is. So you have an aide for a couple of days. They're coaching, reminding, teaching, where the driver can focus on driving, and then they'll move to another bus. And hopefully, particularly the upper elementary students will start to be good role models for the smaller kids who usually aren't the problem, but sometimes. But that's how we're handling it. what's driving it more than anything else, lack of drivers. So
And it wouldn't
Okay.
be financially
It's-
responsible to have an aide on a bus route.
if we could hire the
If you
too,
had
yeah.
staff
Right,
for
if
both
we had to
drivers and
stay,
aides.
yeah, more would be better, but I don't know that just putting another adult on the bus, if they don't have the skills and the children aren't learning, would always be the answer. I mean, there are buses with aides where the behaviors are still not what we'd expect.
I just sympathize with the driver trying to. I was just curious.
It's a fair question. I wish I had a better answer, but I can tell you it's not. It is. I'll be honest. I'm not unhappy that it is a financial savings. That's just a byproduct. It's not something we would do just to save a little bit of money. It's not worth the savings. Is the answer. But the vast majority of our buses, because we do have skilled, experienced drivers, the children are well behaved by anybody's standards. They're getting to school safe. They're getting home safe. There have been a couple of buses where children's behavior has just gotten rowdier. They're not staying in their seat. We haven't had anything bad happen, but if a student's standing up while the bus is moving, that's a dangerous situation. And a driver can't stop every 3 minutes to tell the students sit down. That's where an aide will go.
Mhm.
But the approach is to take an educational approach to the child who will be offenders, the importance to them and to everybody else who's staying in your seat until they get it. And then we have an aide we can move to somewhere else. If we had more aides, there'd be more aides on buses. It's simple answer.
But the aides have an explicit sort of mandate. They're not just another body on the bus. They're
Yeah,
actively
right.
crowd controlling.
Right. They're teaching, they're coaching, right?
I can share.
I was going to say, and the exception would be some of our buses with special needs students, whether the special needs are medical or something, then they're on that bus for these particular students or this person. That would be the exception to what I just said. I'm sorry.
Sorry, no, I was just gonna say too, and I, of course, mine's with some of the older kids, but over the years, and we have a lot of great bus aides, but you don't get the right, I mean, it takes a special person to sometimes work, and sometimes they don't handle situations correctly, they can escalate it. So, we've done some trainings before, but not everyone's wired to be a bus aide. I can just tell you that.
Well, honestly, that's what I was kind of getting at. Is are
Yeah.
they trained? Do they have a playbook? Do they have a?
So tomorrow's actually, it's funny this came up, tomorrow's a training for one of our aides in our building for transportation. So they do have to have special training. We have 2 in our building that go on the bus, one of them's getting trained tomorrow. And Katie's doing the training, the other one's gonna be later in the month. And I can also provide some data on this too, when we look at our referrals to look at our behavior process. I can also provide data where write-ups happen, where referrals happen. I plan on doing that at some point anyway. So you'll see based on, where the location is of the referral, how many happen on the bus, playground, cafeteria, classroom. So eventually I'll provide that data for you guys.
That's interesting. And even if when we explore maybe different options for before school, that will alleviate pressure, I'm sure, because it's just convenience and it's logistics.
Yeah. But when we have more students on the bus and every bus run is longer, the amount of time you're asking a young child to
They
sit
get
and behave
squirrely,
is longer. And that becomes tough.
No, and that wasn't a criticism because
No, I
I
didn't-
think
I didn't-
everybody's doing a
right.
wonderful job.
Yeah, I know I didn't. I don't think anybody would take that as a criticism. It's a good question to ask because you're dead on. It gets harder
Pure
with more
sympathy for
children
the driver.
and longer bus rides. There's no way around it. It gets more difficult.
Just a quick comment. I don't know if this information goes out as part of a newsletter or report to the public, but in the girls' soccer, right in the middle, said we have some parts of the season where a total of 6 to 9 athletes were able to participate due to illness or injury. I think the word "not" belongs in there. Or unless you're really.
I think that's the coaches.
Yeah, that's what I'm thinking, but I don't know if he's gonna put this out in another report or something to the
If they
public.
do, we'll make sure it gets that.
Yeah, because
It's not right.
if we're only playing soccer with 6 players, we got a pretty big problem.
think
I
that's
think that's the
accurate.
case, yeah.
That's accurate. They
That's
had to
accurate.
forfeit games or,
Yes.
that's
They
accurate.
play the whole
Okay.
game.
So 6
It's
or 9
just-
were,
We're available.
okay, so it's not, a-
So how many kids are on the team?
Is it 13, 14, something like that?
So they
go
were
less
trying to
there's
play
a
with
time.
6 kids.
No, they forfeited.
They forfeited, but
They may have
nonetheless.
tried to put 9, I don't
Or a
know.
scrimmage, they called it a scrimmage if they did.
So you can still play, you just can't go out.
Yeah, well, you don't get a-
You know, they can.
But they would take the loss officially or
Yeah.
whatever, but at least they get some touches on the ball. Yeah. So we also have Matt's report. And then, you have Kim. I mean, wait, Mrs. Nichols. I've been doing last names tonight.
Oh, okay. All right, so the first section, just what the admin team, this really, I think I might have mentioned it last month, but from the work from last year, our conversations over the summer, during our own admin retreat, really trying to distill it down. I think we would have liked to have had it to like 3 priorities just to make it easy. But we kept all the goals and initiatives that we feel really are our focus academically this year. The only thing that I changed when I shared with the admin team yesterday, I did try to nest a couple of bullets under something else to at least try to put it together. So the way it reads and what's going to be shared with the faculty and staff is that first bullet, strengthening literacy instruction across all content areas, then bring in the next bullet under that we're increasing students' vocabulary base and strengthening instructional practices. So felt like that could fit because it really is all about literacy. Then the second main one would be using data to drive our instructional decisions and practices. You heard Wayne and Pete both talk about the meetings they've had the last couple of weeks and into next week. And then the next, taking that next to last bullet of implementing a multi-tiered system of supports. And again, you heard both principals talk about it, but then nesting under that, the increasing teacher knowledge and practice around tier 1 classroom interventions. So thinking about what are those interventions that teachers can be doing in their classroom, which they already are, but I think just helping define what we mean and continuing to have those conversations. And then not that it's last or the least important, but maintaining a safe and supportive environment and encouraging that positive culture. And our thought is, and we've already had some teachers ask, whether it's to attend a conference or do some kind of a workshop, we can say, here are our goals and initiatives for the school year academically. If it fits within and it supports one of our initiatives, then by all means, mostly that would be supported so that teachers can attend that. And then moving along, the only thing I would add about data meetings is, in addition to the buildings, we're working with the special ed department. We're going to take a look at the proficiency data for students with disabilities with the special ed teachers and our mid-state, I always forget the name, mid-state regional cooperative. I don't know, I'm missing the last word. It's basically our state support system. They'll be coming down and sitting in on some of these data meetings with the special ed teachers. So that probably won't happen until the first week of November. And I gave you just a summary of what the types of meetings have been, how many we've held, and actually there's more. And you guys heard about the 504 meetings earlier, so they were not all in these numbers. And the only thing I want to point out is parents. I guess I forget that because I started at the end of last school year, so we were having more in-person meetings. But this year we just started right back with in-person meetings, and families were just really thankful and happy to be back in person, be in the room And it was a little bit of a reality check for me. I'd forgotten that some of these families, especially if they'd been last fall, they hadn't been in a meeting physically for a year and a half, 2 years almost. So that was nice to hear that families were happy to be back to normal. And then the last item, I added that, and Brett and I talked about it. And actually, you mentioned it during our admin meeting just this morning. The programs regionally, whether it's BOCES or even the other public school but privately run, they're having staff shortages, and their phrasing in correspondence with us is it becomes a safety issue for them. And it was just a reminder to me that we're so used to and thankful that we have these outside or out of district placements for some of our kids to meet their needs, and we may not have that as an option. So we'll be thinking creatively about what we do to support our students that really do need a different level of support if we can't look to some other program. So, and it's not just us, like you said. So just to have it on the radar. And that's it.
Well done. So on the question maybe half comment, half question on the goals and initiatives.
Yeah.
Do you have measurables or outcomes in mind to, did we succeed? Some of them implementing a multi-tiered system. You can go to the end of the year and say, that happened. We implemented a system. But some of the sort of more strengthening or increasing.
Right. So starting with the MTSS, that was the work that we did over the summer. We actually went through the whole process to talk about, okay, how will we know that we were successful? So we do have those deliverables and we have our list. So the vocabulary base and strengthening instructional practices, we use the iReady data for the vocab, and that we've done for the last 2 years. So we'll continue to use that as a basis of, did we make improvements there?
And the teacher walkthrough.
And the teacher walkthrough tool. Thank you.
Is that for the high? Do you have high school? Do you have that?
Both buildings.
iReady in high school too, or
iReady,
through
sorry.
8th, right?
We do. Our middle school teachers are using the iReady, and this year as well, for our interventionist, our tier 3 interventionist is going to be using, and our teachers as well in the classrooms, they're going to be using for 9th and 10th grade, they're going to be using the iReady as well.
So we're going to have, K-8 takes the iReady assessment 3 times a year. We decided for 9th and 10th grade, because these students have taken iReady up through, they're taking it beginning of year and middle of year. We probably won't do an end of year with 9th and 10th because they have Regents exams, but we would, so a 9th grader next year in 10th grade would have at least the beginning of year data to compare. And then the 11th and 12th grade will just be targeted for the students that have been identified for tier 3. So we're using the iReady data for that. The tier 1 classroom interventions, not any identified deliverables yet. That is going to be another conversation with the mid-state group when they come down and work with us with the students with disabilities. That's part of their help or facilitation, is helping ask us questions. So the way we facilitate with the teachers, they're going to come in and say, okay, well, what's the action plan? So we'll have their help, and then we can share that out. Good question. How will we know that we were successful? Right?
Yeah, thank you.
Mhm.
We have Chris's report and Mike's log, our report. And Mr. Sutton.
So I started with facilities. The first bullet or paragraph is really just, I had this epiphany because I was so focused on, we need to fix roofs, we need to fix the tracks. And then there are all these other little things, and worrying that we're not going to get to all of them this time around, which is true and fine. I had to remind myself, and a friend is superintendent from another district who was coming down Main Street, commented on what a beautiful facility we have, and it just reminded me, I have to stop and be thankful. We do have a beautiful facility, inside and out, and it's thank you to the community and everybody who was here ahead of time to make sure that that happened. With that, being said, we get the stairs in the auditorium will be done this spring, which I'm happy about, just in case it rains. We had a beautiful graduation this year, but I'm not going to bank on that happening again. So if we can be on the lawn, great. If not, we'll have an auditorium that's ready to invite the community in for our graduation. And then I did want to give a very sincere thanks to the facility committee and every individual on it. I am not a builder. I got here because I started out being really good at teaching kids how to read who struggled. I'm not a builder, but with this committee, I'm feeling so confident. And again, I mentioned people by name in the report because they were going above and beyond when whether it's King and King or anybody says, well, we need to look at this asbestos. I have someone I can go to say, is their proposal reasonable? And I can say with confidence, yep, we're going with this one. Or finding things like leaks in the roof that we didn't already know about and getting to them quick. I walk the buildings all the time, but I'm sure I miss stuff. I'm just not. So I appreciate it. And then I give a special shout out to Jim Wintermute, who has impressed me beyond belief. And I can see where he's just a quiet, unassuming guy. But any question we've asked, any question any of the contractors have asked, he's had the answer. He knows the buildings really well, and he's putting the time in. So it's been great. Next thing I wanted to jump to, we talked about last night, is our partnership with Tompkins Cortland Community College. And Mr. Amon mentioned it as well. We're proud of the number of students that are taking college level classes while they're here at high school. This year we have more than we've had before who are on track to earn an associate's degree before they graduate high school. I know the board and the community not only is proud of that, they support it. So we're looking at ways, and I'll have a number of draft policies before we have the final one, but before the students need the tuition, we'll be able to adopt a board policy that will allow us to cover the cost. So Candor High School students who put the work in and earn a college degree, an associate's degree from our partner community college, will be able to get that at no cost. Thank you. And then Mr. Ahart is helping us put together, and we will soon, hopefully by next year, a before school program for our families and for our kids. There's just so many benefits, not just to families who start work early in the morning and can have their children here. As Mrs. Davenport mentioned, it will alleviate some of the pressure on our transportation department if children can get here earlier. And it also gives us an opportunity to teach kids, give them remediation, and not have to pull them out of otherwise instructional time during the day if they're here early or after, and we have the teachers available to provide the instruction. So it's something I'm optimistic about, and though I don't have details of start dates or anything like that yet, I'm sure it's going to happen. Thank you.
Excellent. Recognition of visitors. Mike, do you have anything you want to say?
Surprisingly, no. You've done a great job.
So just quick, I went to the, oh gosh, I don't remember the exact name, board leadership conference or something like that out in Rochester for a day. And it was useful. It was eye-opening. It was interesting and good to hear other BOE's successes and challenges. I'm glad that we as a board are consistently looking through the lens of what's best for kids. I think not every district has that. And the other, well, we may start doing more presentations, which is asking more of you guys, I understand, but they had a sort of a template calendar. Some of the data stuff and just some of the other things are really cool for us to hear. But on the sort of flip side of that, most schools don't have their admins at the board meetings. And I am so thankful to have you guys here consistently and hearing about what's really going on. So thank you guys for taking a night every month to tell us what's going on. Because it would be so much less fun if we didn't have the reports.
Can you imagine what it would be like for them if they just had me? We wouldn't get anybody to serve on the board.
So that's all I have. Anybody else? Cool.
Thank you very much.
Yes.
That was.
Thanks for t-shirts and cookies, or cupcakes, whatever they are.
8:19.
Wow.
If I could just say, that starts at 7.
Yeah.
Let's start over.
Start over.
Great.
I mean, this is insane.
Allow them to-
Well, I'm